Good morning, everyone. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, they have launched their much awaited revisionary test paper for November 21 examination. So the examinations basically are held in December 21. Now, this revisionary test papers have been launched, and we will be discussing now these revisionary test papers, and these lectures, they are available on our mobile app, free of cost. You can say view these lectures in our mobile app. So let us start with the discussion on direct tax laws and international taxation revisionary test paper. So the instructions which have been provided are that the provisions of the direct tax laws as amended by the Finance Act 2020, the Taxation and Other Laws, Relaxation and Amendment of Certain Provisions Act 2020, and significant notifications and circulars which have been issued up to 30th of April 21. They are what relevant for the November 21 examination. The relevant assessment year, as you are aware of the fact that it is for November 21 examination, is assessment year 21-22, and the November 20 edition of this study material, they, along with the statutory dates and judicial updates, they have been hosted at the website of the institute. So the provisions of the Finance Act 2020 and Taxation and Other Laws Amendment Act, Relaxation and Amendment of Certain Provisions Act 2020, as well as the circulars and notifications up to 30th of April 21, they are applicable. Now let us start with the question. Now first question is a case scenario based question. First question is a case scenario based question. Let us start discussion about the same. Now first question we are starting. Mr. Harshit, a resident Indian, Harshit is a resident Indian, is in retail business in Mumbai, and his turnover for financial year 1920 was 8 crores. His turnover for financial year 1920 was 8 crores. Now he regularly purchases goods from another resident, Mr. Pranav. So Pranav is a seller. Basically, he is selling the goods to Harshit. He is selling the goods to Harshit. Okay. And the aggregate payments made by Harshit to Mr. Pranav during financial year 2021 was rupees 80 lakhs. Now here 20 lakhs have been made on 8th of May, 25 lakhs on 27th of August, 20 lakhs on 18th of October, and 15 lakhs on 11th of February. Now here Mr. Pranav's turnover in financial year 1920 was 11 crores. So here Pranav's turnover in preceding financial year exceeds what? Exceeds rupees 10 crores. So we have seen with effect from 1st of October 2020, TCS provisions are applicable. That is, a seller, Pranav, will be required to collect tax at source in case he is receiving the payments or the aggregate of the payments which is received exceeds rupees what? 50 lakhs. Same exceeds 50 lakhs. So in excess of rupees 50 lakhs, he will be required to collect tax at source. So the provisions have been made applicable with effect from 1st of October. Therefore, on this 20 lakhs, in excess of 50 lakhs, tax will be required to be what? Collected at source. So here it is 20 plus 25, that is 45 lakh rupees it is. Then up to 5 lakhs, no tax will be collected at source. On this remaining 15 lakhs, on 18th of October 21, and on 15 lakhs on 11th of February 21, this Pranav, he will be required to collect the tax at source. And the rate of TCS basically is 0.1%, but because of COVID, it has been reduced to 0.075%. Rate of TCS is 0.075%. Okay, and if PAN has not been provided, rate of TCS will be 1%. If PAN has not been provided by the buyer, then the seller will be collecting tax at source at rate of 1%. This we have discussed under section 206C 1H. Now Mr. Pranav paid 5 lakhs on 1st of September 2020 to Mr. Measures Thomas Cook. Thomas Cook, as you are aware, they are tour operators, for a holiday package to Singapore for a week with his family comprising of his wife and 2 children, being twins aged 22 in the last week of September. Now, as you are aware, TCS provisions, they have also been introduced in relation to if any payment is made to tour operators in relation to overseas tour program package, they will be what required to collect tax at source. They will be required to collect what? Tax at source at rate of 5%. At rate of 5%. But the provisions have been introduced with effect from what? 1st of October. 1st of October 2020. These tour operators, they will be basically, they will be required to collect what? Tax at source. Okay. That is the seller of this overseas tour program package, Thomas Cook. But here, since they have made the payment on 1st of September 2020, therefore, there will be no TCS liability in this particular case. Then he also took an education loan of 15 lakhs on 1st of February 21 from SBI, Madam Kama Road, Mumbai, for his son 2 years Masters of Public Ad program in Columbia University, USA, and remitted the said amount through the same bank, which is an authorized dealer also, under liberalized remittance scheme. So here also we have seen that under section 2061G, 206C1G, tax is required to be collected at source, and in case it is basically an education loan, it's an education loan, remittance has been through an education loan, rate of TCS will be 0.5% in excess of rupees 7 lakhs. In excess of rupees 7 lakhs. So here on 15 lakhs minus 7 lakhs on 8 lakh rupees, tax will be collected at source by the authorized dealer, that is the bank. Then for his daughter's MBA in Iowa State University, USA, he has remitted 12 lakhs on 1st of February 21. Now here other remittances also, 12 lakhs have been remitted, and that has been through this Bank of India. Out of the personal savings, even out of the personal savings, loan have not been taken. So rate of TCS in that case will be 5%. In excess of 7 lakh rupees, tax will be collected at source by the Bank of India, Bandra branch, Mumbai, which is an authorized dealer under LRS. Then Pranav has also remitted 6 lakhs again on 28th of March 21 out of his personal savings under LRS through Bank of India, Bandra branch, as gift to his sister residing in London on occasion of her 50th birthday. So on this 6 lakh also, tax will be collected at source, because in aggregate the remittance has already exceeded rupees 7 lakhs. So tax will be collected at source at rate of 5%. That has been provided. TDS and TCS provisions, you must go through the same. So this is TCS provisions have been there. So let us now see what questions they are asking on the basis of the facts given above. On the basis of facts given above, choose the most appropriate answer to question number 1 to 5 below. So they are asking that you are required to choose the most appropriate answer. Are provisions of TDS and TCS under the Income Tax Act 1961 are attracted in respect of purchase and sale transactions between Harshit and Pranav. So here we are seeing that Pranav, since its turnover in the preceding financial year exceeds 10 crores, will be required to collect tax at source at rate of 0.075% in excess of rupees 50 lakhs which have been made after 1st of October. So, if so, what is the quantum of the tax to be deducted or say collected for the financial year 2021? Now, first is no TDS or TCS provisions are not attracted. No TDS and TCS provisions are not attracted in financial year 2021. Since turnover of Mr. Harshit in the immediately preceding financial year in financial year 1920 does not exceed 10 crores. This is wrong. Yes, Mr. Harshit is required to deduct tax at source on 30 lakh rupees. This is wrong because Pranav will be required to what? Collect tax at source. It's not Harshit will be required to deduct tax at source. It is Pranav will be required to collect tax at source. Then let us see. Yes, Mr. Pranav has to collect tax at source at rate of 0.075% on 30 lakhs. We have seen this. In excess of 50 lakh rupees, whatever amounts have been received by the seller, tax will be required to be collected at source. So, correct answer is C in this case. Yes, Mr. Pranav is required to collect tax at source at rate of 0.1%. This rate has been basically reduced due to COVID. Therefore, rate is 0.075%. Question number 2 is there. In case of failure to furnish PAN by the deductee or the collectee as required, based on the question number 1 above, what would be the applicable rate of TDS or TCS? So, in this particular circumstance, when tax has not been furnished, this PAN has not been furnished by the deductee, by the basically the collectee here, then the tax will be collected at source at rate of 1%. It has been provided that in such case tax will be collected at source at rate of 1%. Then in question number 3, is Thomas Cook required to collect tax at source on receipt of 5 lakh from Pranav for holiday package to Singapore? And if so, what is the amount? So since the amount has been received, in September 2020, TCS provisions have been made applicable with effect from 1st of October 2020. Therefore, answer in this case will be TCS provisions. They are not attracted in respect of this transaction. TCS provisions, basically they are not attracted in respect of this transaction. Okay. Then again, in question number 4, they are asking what is the amount of tax to be collected from Mr. Pranav in respect of remittances of the amount overseas for his sons and daughters' education. For sons' education, since he have taken a loan of 15 lakhs, so 15 lakhs minus 7 lakhs, that is on 8 lakh rupees, tax will be required to be collected at source. In this particular case, we have seen that tax will be required to be what? Collected at source. In this remittance of rupees what? 12 lakhs in excess of 7 lakhs. It is 15 lakhs, 15 minus 7, that is what on 8 lakh rupees. In this case, basically, here the remittances which have been made, one is 15 lakh rupees in excess of 7 lakh, tax will be required to be collected at source in such a case, okay, at a rate of 0.5% because education loan has been taken. And then in second case, the remittance is rupees 12 lakhs, that is out of personal savings. So on 12 lakhs in excess of rupees 7 lakhs, how much amount is there? It is 5 lakhs. Tax will be required to be collected at source by the authorized dealer at rate of 5%. At rate of 5%, tax will be required to be collected at source. So let us see the options. TCS at rate of 0.5% on 8 lakhs and 5 lakhs respectively are attracted in respect of remittance for sons and daughters? No, that is not a correct answer. TCS at rate of 5% on 8 lakhs and 5 lakhs, that is also not correct. Here TCS at rate of 0.5% on 8 lakhs and TCS at a rate of 5% on 5 lakhs are attracted in respect of remittance for sons and daughters education respectively. Answer C is correct in this case. Let us see the fourth option also. TCS at rate of 5% on 8 lakhs is attracted in respect of remittance for sons education. No TCS is attracted in respect of daughters education. That is not correct. Whatever remittances are made outside India in excess of 7 lakhs, there will be requirement of tax collection at source. Are TCS provisions attracted in respect of remittance of gift to the sister? Well, yes, here also. If so, what is the amount of tax to be collected from Pranav? Because from the same bank, they have further remitted how much? From the same bank, further remittance is what? 6 lakhs. So they are already getting the benefit of exemption of 7 lakh rupees has already been taken in respect of the self-remittance of 12 lakh rupees. So on this 6 lakh rupees, 5% tax will be collected at source. So the amount of tax which is required to be collected at source is rupees what? 30,000. So here 30,000 is the amount of tax which will be required to be collected at source by the authorized dealer. So answer in this case will be what? Rupees 30,000. Let us see the option. No, since remittance is out of personal savings, that is not a correct answer. No, since amount remitted to sister is less than 7 lakh. If it is through any other authorized dealer, then definitely they will be further getting the benefit of exemption of 7 lakh rupees. But here, since it is from the same authorized dealer, he will not be getting the benefit of the exemption. No, due to reasons stated in A and B above. So the answer is yes, tax will be required to be collected at source on 6 lakh rupees at rate of say 5%. So this was case scenario 1 which we have discussed here. Now let us discuss the case scenario 2nd. A Limited is an Indian company. A Limited is an Indian company which has invested in the shares of other Indian and foreign companies. And during the financial year 2021, A Limited received dividend from these companies as follows. Now it has received B Limited, an Indian company, 10% is the holding. Date of declaration of dividend is 26/2020. Then date of distribution of dividend is 3/7/2020. Okay. 2 lakh is the amount of the gross dividend. Expenditure which has been incurred is 45,000 rupees. Then C Limited, it is a foreign company. Here 22% voting power is there. Okay. Amount of dividend, gross amount of dividend is what? 4 lakh rupees. And the expenditure which has been incurred in respect of interest on borrowed interest expenditure on borrowed loan, on loan borrowed for investment in shares is 90,000 rupees. The same will be allowed as deduction here. Then DINC, it is a foreign company again. Here 30% voting power is by the Indian company. Therefore, it is a specified foreign company. That is an Indian company holds 26% or more of voting power in the foreign company. It becomes a specified foreign company. And here, basically, we have received a dividend of 6 lakh rupees. The expenditure will not be what? Deductible. Then E Limited is an Indian company. Here, the date of declaration of dividend is 14/1. Date of distribution of dividend by company is 2nd of February. And 3,20,000 is the amount of the gross dividend. And the expenditure which has been incurred is 70,000 rupees. Okay. So this dividend now is taxable in the hands of the shareholder, as you are aware. So the expenditure which has been incurred in respect of dividend, we have taken any loan for purpose of investment in shares. The expenditure which is deductible, it will be what? Restricted to 20% of the dividend income. The expenditure, the same will be restricted to what? 20% of the dividend income. So here the dividend which has been earned is 2 lakhs plus 4 lakhs and 320 this much amount of dividend has been earned by us. 4 into 6 and 3, 9,20,000. The expenditure will be restricted to the extent of 20%. So 920 into 20% is 1,84,000 rupees. So 920 minus 184, sorry. It will be 7,36,000 rupees. Besides this, no expenditure will be allowed from the dividend earned from specified foreign company. 6 lakh rupees is this dividend. So 13,36,000 is the amount of dividend which will be taxable in hands of A Limited. Now A Limited declared and distributed dividend of 6 lakhs for financial year 1920 in June 2020, as well as dividend of 7 lakh rupees in financial year 2021 in July 21. Okay. Now this deduction will be admissible under ATM. Now relating to this 6 lakh rupees, in the preceding financial year, ATM was not there. So therefore it will be deductible in this year, as well as whatever dividends have been distributed on or before the due date of furnishing the return of income, that will also be deductible. So 13 lakh rupees amount of deduction can be claimed under section ATM. The amount of dividend which has been received is 13,36,000 rupees. Amount of dividend which has been distributed is 13 lakh rupees. So which is lower, the same will be eligible for deduction under section ATM. So here deduction will be admissible to the tune of this much amount. Now further they say that Mr. Akash and Mr. Arav, they are two brothers who are invested in shares of A Limited. Both of them were born in India. Their parents and grandparents were also born in India. So they are basically person of Indian origin. Okay. Who will be regarded as a person of Indian origin whose parents or grandparents were born in undivided India. Now Mr. Akash is an Indian citizen. Akash is what? An Indian citizen who lives in Hyderabad. Then he is an Indian citizen, he is living in Hyderabad. He is employed with a leading textile manufacturing unit. Okay, he is employed in leading textile manufacturing unit. And salary of 1 lakh per month is earned. He is earning salary of 1 lakh per month. 12 lakh rupees is his salary. Getting a standard deduction of 50,000 rupees. Okay. Then his brother Arav is settled in country Y since year 2010. So he is in outside India. He is a citizen of country Y and he is also a partner with a software development firm in country Y. His share of profit in country Y from financial year 2021 is CYD rupees, say CYD 1,20,000, which was credited to his bank account in country Y. So this amount has been received outside India. This is received outside India. Okay. The value of one CYD is 25, and he is not subjected to income tax in country Y since the share of profits of firm is exempt in hands of the partners in country Y. Akash Arav say visits for 4 months in continuation every year. So he is in India for a period of 4 months, maybe 120 plus 2 days, we can say 122 days. But since he is a foreign citizen, if he may be an Indian citizen, in case if an Indian citizen or person of Indian origin comes to India for the purpose of visit to India, and his Indian income other than income from foreign sources exceeds rupees this much amount, that is 15 lakh rupees, then he becomes resident but not ordinarily resident in India. He becomes resident but not ordinarily resident in India in that particular case. Now he has earned interest of 14 lakh rupees from fixed deposits with Bank of India. Okay, he has earned interest of 14 lakh rupees. His Indian income is here 14 lakh rupees. Besides this, Arav has also received a dividend in June 2020. 90,000 is the amount of dividend, and the expenditure which has been incurred to earn such dividend is 20,000 rupees. So it will be 90,000 is the amount of dividend. Expenditure incurred is 18,000 will be deductible. So his income, basically his total income from Indian sources does not exceed rupees 15 lakhs. His income does not exceed rupees what? 15 lakhs. Okay. So he will not be a not ordinary resident. He cannot be deemed resident also because he is also not an Indian citizen. Therefore, his status of Arav will be what? Non-resident. Arav will be non-resident. Then let us see what they are asking. On the basis of the facts given above, choose the most appropriate answer to question number 6 to 10 below on the basis of the provisions of Income Tax Act. Ignore DTA if any with country Y for purpose of answering these questions. Now first question is, what is the amount of dividend income includable in GTI of A Limited for AY 21-22 under the provisions of the Income Tax Act. So we have already computed that this is 920 minus 184. This is 920 minus 184 plus 6 lakhs. This much. So it is answer is 13 lakh and this answer is 13 lakh and 36,000. So answer here is 13 lakh and 36,000. 13 lakh 36,000 is the answer here. How much amount of deduction that will be available under ATM for the assessment year 21-22? It has distributed a dividend to the tune of 13 lakh rupees, received a dividend of 1336, distributed to the tune of 13 lakh rupees. For 6 lakh they have not claimed deduction in the earlier year. For 7 lakhs also, since the same has been distributed in July 21, they will be what getting the benefit of the deduction to the tune of 13 lakh rupees. So answer will be D in this case. Then what is the tax liability of Mr. Akash for assessment year 21-22 under the provisions of the Income Tax Act if he wishes to make maximum tax savings? Ignore TDS. Now in case if Akash goes for 115 BAC provisions, then Akash's salary income is what? 12 lakh rupees. His salary will be rupees 12 lakhs. Okay. Dividend income will be dividend income of Akash 60,000 minus 12,000. 60,000 minus 12,000 because expenditure will be deductible to the tune of 12,000 only. So 60,000 minus 12,000. That is 12 lakh and 48,000. If he goes for 115 BAC, he won't be getting any amount of standard deduction here. Besides, no further income has been provided in respect of Akash. So when we calculate the tax liability for first 2,50,000, it will be nil. Next 250, it will be 5%. That is 12,500. Next 250, it will be 10%. That is 25,000. Next 250, it will be 15%. That is 37,500. Okay. So we have already covered. Then we are getting 248. It will be 20%. So 10 lakhs we have already covered. 248, 20%. That is 49,600. So 49,600 plus 37,500 plus 37,500. That works out to be 124,600. And here HEC is at rate of 4%, 4,984, 129, 580 rounded off. If he goes for the normal provisions, then he will be getting a standard deduction of 50,000 from salary. His salary income will be 1150 and 48. That is 1198. Now let us calculate tax liability as per the normal provisions. This is salary after deduction and it is dividend. As per the normal provisions, the tax liability will be 250, it is nil. Then next, 2,50,000 is 5%. That is 12,500. Next 5 lakh, it is 20%. That is 1 lakh. And then the remaining amount is 198 into 30%. So it is 198 into 30%, 59,400. 59,400. So it is 159,400 plus 12,500 equal to 171,900 into 4% is the HEC, 6876. So it works out to be 178,780 rupees. So he will opt for 115 BAC and his tax liability will be 129,580. His tax liability will be 129,580. Then what is the residential status of Arav for assessment year 21-22? He will not be regarded as deemed resident because he is not an Indian citizen. He will not be regarded as NOR also because his Indian income does not exceed 15 lakhs. So his answer will be, he will be non-resident. His answer is non-resident. Then they are asking, what is the tax liability of Arav under the provisions of the Income Tax Act if he wishes to maximize his tax savings? So he has earned an interest of 14 lakh rupees. His income is 14 lakh rupees. Interest income. Interest income has been earned by him on fixed deposits. Besides this, he has earned dividend 90,000 rupees. 18,000 is a deduction here. So this will be how much income? 14 lakhs plus 90,000 minus 18,000. That is 14 lakh and 72,000 rupees. 1472. Okay. So we have already seen that the tax liability work out on 250, it is nil. Then next 250, it is 12,500. Next 250, it is 10%. That is 25,000. This is BAC we are calculating under section 115 BAC. Then next 250, it is 15%. That is 37,500. Then next 250, it is 20%. That is 50,000. Then we are having balance of how much? 1250 we have already covered. So 1472 minus 1250. Okay, that is what? 2,22,000 into 25%. That is 55,500. So 55,500 plus 50,000 plus 37,500 plus 37,500. Tax works out to be 180,500. Add HEC at rate of 4%. That is 7,220. So it works out to be 187. It is 187,720. It is 187,720. But if it goes for the normal provisions, on 250 it is nil. Next 250 it is 5%. Next 5 lakh, it is 20%. And then balance 472, it is 30%. So 472 into 30% is 141,600 plus 112,500 into 4%. That is 264. That is 472 into 30%. $264 something, that is higher than this normal provisions. Okay, normal tax liability is more, so the answer will be what in this particular circumstance? 187,720 will be the answer. Answer will be 187,720. So this was one question which we have discussed here, that was dealing with the provisions relating to dividend income taxability as well as concessional rate of tax. Now, further they say that during the financial year 2021, the following income accrues or arises to a specified fund. They have again given the information relating to a specified fund. Say here, capital gains on transfer of rupee denominated bonds of NTPC, an Indian company. Transfer is effected in September 2020 through India International Exchange, Gift City, Gujarat, and consideration is received in, say, US dollars. Then they have given interest on debentures from PQR Inc., a country P company whose POEM is outside India. Assume that such income does not accrue and arise in India. This income does not accrue and arise in India. Then capital gains is there on transfer of shares of MNO Limited by an Indian company, and capital gains on transfer of debentures have been provided, and income under the PGBP of a securitization trust. Income under PGBP of a securitization trust. They have been given a pass-through status here. Now they say that these are the incomes which have been provided. Which of the income referred to above, when computed in prescribed manner, would be exempt in hands of specified fund? Would be exempt in hands of specified fund. Under section 10(4)(d), assuming the same are attributable to units held by non-resident, not being a permanent establishment of, say, a non-resident in India. So we have seen this exemption has been provided under section 10(4)(d). So basically the exemption has been provided under section 10(4)(d), and the same has been enhanced by the Taxation and Other Laws Relaxation and Amendment Act 2020. So any income which accrue or arise or same is received by a specified fund as a result of transfer of a capital asset, basically on a recognized stock exchange which is located in International Financial Service Center, and the consideration for which is payable in convertible foreign exchange. So these are the rupee denominated bonds. They are covered here. The same will be what? Exempt. Okay, that exemption has been provided. Beside this, if any income has been received from securities issued by a non-resident, not being a permanent establishment of non-resident in India, and where such income does not say accrue or arise in India. So here, interest on debentures of NR PQR Inc., country P, basically it's a non-resident, POEM is outside India, and the income does not accrue or rise in India, the same will also be exempt. Beside this, if any income is there, from securitization trust, which is chargeable under the Act PGBP, the same will also be, say, exempt from tax. The same will also be exempt from tax. Beside this, the capital gains which is arising on, say, transfer of the debentures, capital gains which have been arising from transfer of securities, not being shares. So this will also be exempt. Shares, it will be what? Taxable, because they have given an exception to the same. That is capital gains as a result of what? transfer of securities other than shares of a company resident in India, the same will be exempt. So fundamentally, shares will be taxable. So they say that which of the following is exempt. So in this case, the first is exempt, second is exempt, fourth and fifth is exempt. First, second, fourth and fifth, they are what? Exempt. So answer will be C in this regard. Answer will be what? C. So you can go through this in NR taxation. We have discussed the same. These exemptions under section 10(4)(d) amendment has been made. Then during the previous year 2021, HelpAge, a charitable trust, made voluntary contributions, not being corpus donations, to another charitable trust registered under 12AA out of current income derived from, say, property held under trust. Okay, they have made this voluntary contributions have been made to other trust. So the same will be regarded as, say, application of income. In case it is made out of the accumulation, then it won't be regarded as, say, application. Then an educational institution, this has been made to an educational institution to referred under 1023C6 out of current year's income here also. That is out of current year's income. This will be regarded as application. And it is not in form of, say, corpus donations. Otherwise, corpus donations, if we make, the exemptions have been provided to the concerned entity which is receiving the, corpus donations. Therefore, amendment have been made in this regard also. Then another charitable trust registered under 12AA out of accumulated income of the trust. This will not be regarded as an application. So which of the voluntary contributions are permitted as application of income for charitable purpose under the provisions of the Income Tax Act? So here, the first, none of the above. First is none of the above. Second is only first. Basically, the answer will be first and second above. Answer will be first and second above here. The same will be regarded as what? The application of the income. So this will be regarded as the application of income, first and, say, second above. Then, what would be your answer? Has the voluntary contributions been made in form of corpus donations? In case voluntary contributions have been made in form of corpus donations to another trust or institution, same won't be regarded as, say, application. So the amendment has been made by the Finance Act 2020 that in case if you make any corpus donation, voluntary contributions in form of corpus donations out of the current year's income, in that particular circumstance, the same will not be regarded as what? An application of income. So it won't be regarded as application of income. So the answer will be what? None of the above. None of the above will be the answer in this case. They won't be regarded as what? The application of income. So none of the above is the answer. Okay? In this particular case. Now question number 14th. A real estate investment trust, REIT, receives dividend of 8 lakhs in February 21 from A Limited, a SPV, which is a business trust which holds 80% of shareholding. Okay? Business trust holds 80% of shareholding from A Limited. The REIT distribute dividend to its unit holders in March. Mr. X is a resident Indian holding 5% units and Mr. Y is non-resident holding 10% units. What would be the tax consequences in hands of REIT and unit holders? They are asking the tax consequences in hands of REIT and unit holders. So dividend which has been received by a business trust from its special purpose vehicle, the same has been given a pass-through status. So first is REIT enjoy pass-through status in respect of dividend received by from A Limited only if A Limited does not opt for the provisions of section 115BAA. That is not correct. It will be given a pass-through status whether it opts or it does not opt. REIT enjoys the pass-through status in respect of dividend received from A Limited only if it opts for if the A Limited, that is the SPV, has opted for what? 115BAA. So that is also not correct. Basically, REIT enjoys the pass-through status in respect of dividend received from A Limited, irrespective whether A Limited opts for section 115BAA or not. Okay. In case where dividend is taxable in hands of REIT, the same would be subject to what? The maximum marginal rate. That is, dividend is basically exempt in hands of REIT. So they are asking which of the statements are correct. So this is third statement is basically correct. Then dividend is exempt in hands of Mr. X and Y only if A Limited opt for the provisions of section 115 BAA. So in that case, dividend will be taxable. So dividend is exempt in hands of X and Y only if A Limited does not opt for BAA. So this sixth statement is also correct. Sixth statement is also correct. In case if the SPV does not opt for the provisions of BAA, then the dividend will be what? Exempt. Then dividend is exempt in hands of X and Y irrespective whether A Limited opts for 115 BAA or not, as SPV opts for 115 BAA or not. That is wrong. Tax is deductible by REIT on dividend distributed to X and Y at rate of 10% only in cases where dividend is, say, taxable in their hands. Now here, further they say that tax is deductible by REIT on dividend distributed to Mr. X at rate of 7.5%. Okay, because at COVID time, X is, say, resident here. X is resident. X is resident, okay, and the rates have been reduced on that account. So he is a resident, and 10% in case of Y. So this is also correct. X and Y non-resident rate will be 10%. So fundamentally, which of the following statements are correct? Third is correct, sixth is correct, and ninth is correct. Third, sixth, and ninth is correct. So answer will be C in this regard. Answer will be C in this regard. Now let us discuss question number 15th. A Limited is a Singapore company whose POEM is in Singapore, which owns and operates an electronic platform for provision of services. Okay. B Limited is a Malaysian company whose POEM is also in Malaysia, which provides basically online advertisement services. It is providing online advertisement services. The gross receipts from the services may be taken 3 crores in financial year 2021 for both A and B Limited. A Limited does not have a branch in India, whereas B Limited has a branch at Mumbai, and online advertisement services are effectively connected to that branch. Now here, the online advertisement services, they have been effectively connected to that branch. Okay. Now here they say that Mr. X, a citizen and resident in India, has availed services from A Limited and B Limited in September 2020 for purpose of business in India, and the amount payable to A Limited is rupees what? A Limited. That is on account of provision of services. That is what? 2 lakhs. And that is basically 5 lakhs, 5 lakhs and 12 lakhs respectively. To B Limited, it is 12 lakhs respectively. Now, would equalization levy will be attracted in respect of the same? They are asking whether equalization levy will be attracted or not. Now, in this case, when we say that B Limited is having, say, a branch in India, and this branch in India is providing online advertisement services to Mr. X. Hence, equalization levy will not be attracted in such case. Will not be attracted in such case. But when Mr. X is availing what? Services from A Limited. It is availing services from A Limited. In that particular circumstance, they will be charging 2% equalization levy. Okay. So whatever consideration has been received from X, 2% equalization levy will be charged in such a case. So they say that equalization levy would be attracted in both the cases. Well, no. In case of, as I already told you, when X is availing online advertisement services from B Limited from Indian branch, resident here, equalization levy is not attracted. Then B is equalization levy of 2% would be attracted in hands of A Limited in respect of consideration received from X. This is correct. Equalization levy at rate of 6% would be attracted in respect of transactions between X and B Limited. However, no equalization levy would be attracted. So this is wrong, because equalization levy would be attracted at rate of 2% in the transaction which has been made with the A Limited. A Limited will be charging equalization levy at rate of 2%. No equalization levy would be attracted in both the cases. That is also wrong. So the answer will be B in this regard. So this is what we have discussed about the multiple choice questions which have been asked in direct tax laws here. So these multiple choice questions will be available in the video sections. In the video sections, you can view these MCQs of a mobile app. You can download the mobile app free of cost and view these MCQs.